Okay, today is Daf Nun Gimel. Sorry, Nun Daled. We are going to begin Nun Gimel Amid Beis by Nafal Leteche. It's the line starts with Nezek Kule by the two dots, Nafal Leteche. Now, the Mishnah said, Nafal Leteche Shed V'Kelov, that if an ox and the vessels it was carrying fell into the beir, and the kelim were broken, or the Mishnah brought another case, or the donkey, let's say the chamer, was carrying, let's say, kelim or other things, and the garment tore. So the halacha is like this: the owner of the beir is chayav for damage to the animal caused by the beir. The one who dug the pit, if the animal gets hurt, is chayav for the damage, but he's pater from liability of the damage caused by the kelim. That's what the Mishnah says. Okay. So the Gemara says, Masnisa in our Mishnah, which says that the owner of the pit is pater from paying for nizkei kelim, for when kelim get damaged, that fell into the pit. The loik Rabbi Yehuda is not like the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Why? The Tanya we learned in a brisa, Rabbi Yehuda mechayiv al nizkei kelim. Rabbi Yehuda does obligate the owner of the pit if the kelim get damaged in the pit, then the Baal HaBer has to pay for the damaged kelim. What did our Mishnah say? Nafal l'teiche shedi v'kelim v'nishbaru chayiv ala behemu pater ala kelim. It must be that our Mishnah is not the shitas of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, for Zod the Gemara, my time of the Rabbanon. What is the source why the Chachamim hold that the owner of the ox is pater from paying niskei kelim? So the Amar Kra, the pasuk says, this is a pasuk that speaks about the obligation for paying when a niskei beir, when a pit damages. The pasuk says like this: "V'nafal shama sheir or chamor," and who fell in the beir, a sheir or a chamor. Now, the Chayr of the Torah could have said "V'nafal shama hanefil." Why does the Torah have to b'chlal tell me what fell in there? Sheir and a chamor. Why does the Torah have to tell me that? So the Chacham said sheir. You know what it says? Sheir. It says dafke an ox, v'loy adam, to tell me dafke when an ox falls into a pit, and when a person falls into a pit, the bala beir will not be chayiv. Chamer, why does the Torah stress chamer? V'loy kelim, the Torah tells me dafke chamer, fell into a pit, the bala beir will be chayiv, but not kelim that fell in. Okay, so the Chachamim have a good answer. Why does the Torah b'chlal have to mention? The Torah could just say, v'nafal shama nefel. Why does the Torah have to stress who fell in there? Sheir and chamer. So from here the Chachamim say, Shade, Shade v'lei Adam, Chamer, Chamer v'lei Kelim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that Mechayev niskei kelim bebeir, what does he do with this limud of the Chachamim? So he says, Oi, the Torah says, V'nafal shama shur or chamer. Why does the Torah say, Oi, between shur and chamer? Must be let Rabbi says kelim. It must be to tell me to include that the Baal HaBer will be chayev if kelim gets damaged. Ve'Rabbanan, according to the Chachamim said no. The word oi mibayilei lechalek. The word oi, I need it to. It's necessary to separate the cases between sherd and chamor. Why? Because you would think, like Rashi says, you would think that when does the Torah mechayev the Baal HaBer to pay? When the shur and the chamor fallen together, biyachad. But separately, it doesn't say it. So that's why it says oy, to teach me that oy is not extra, but rather to tell me that either one. So l'chera oy, you can't tell me oy is l'chalak. I need oy to tell me that they don't need to fall together. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that, he says that oy doesn't need. I don't need to have oy to be mechalakit. Why? Mivenafal nafket. Because he says, I learn it out from the Torah uses the expression v'nafal. Nafal is lashon yachid. Why does the Torah use v'nafal lashon yachid? What's the lashon? The lashon is v'nafal shama sher chamer. Why does the Torah use the lashon? It should say v'naflu sher chamer. So according to Rabbi Yehuda says, I don't need to tell me that, or I should have a havamina that they should fall together, because why would the Torah use the lashon of v'nafal, lashon singular? It must be that I never had a havamina to think that they have to fall together. Elamai comes back that oi, that is extra, to tell me to be mar ben niskei kelim. V'Rabbanan, Rabbanan say no, v'nafal tuva mashma. Nafal, even though it's lashon yachid, it could still imply many animals. And the fact that you're using a singular lashon does not subject it necessarily to singular. And therefore, oi, I need to have oi to be mechalik. And therefore, we have no extra word of oi to teach me to be marben iske kelim. So now the Gemara says, okay, so now, the Gemara is going to ask, we're saying, where do we know that shir and a chamor, you're telling me that shir means shamer v'le adam, and chamor v'le kelim. Or let's say, according to Rabbi Yehuda, means, let's say, adam alone. Now, what comes out on, let's say, other balei chayim, other animals who get hurt into the beir, the din would be that the owner of the beir is chayiv. So now the Gemara asks, how do you know that? You're saying to me that shir means shamer shir v'le adam, chamer v'le kelim. But other animals, let's say the Gemara is going to give about oifis or other animals that fall into the pit, the bala beir will be chayiv. How do you know that? So that's the Gemara saying. Amos, so now the Gemara asks, Amos, why do I say like this? V'nafal, when the Torah says v'nafal, that's a klal. It's a general. And what fell in? V'nafal shir v'chamer, an ox and a donkey, which that's a prat. So now I have a din of a klal uprat, which is a general and a detail. So what's the din by klal uprat? Ein bechlal elam asher beprat. That the general, when I speak about the klal, it has to be part of the prat, which means shir v'chamer in midyachin ilay, which I could tell me that if I say v'nafal shir v'chamer, shir is v'nafal is a klal, shir v'chamer is a prat. Ein bechlal elam asher beprat, which would tell me that what's the din of a nafal, dafka shir and chamer, but not anything else. So how do I know that every other balei chayim that falls into the bala beir will be chayiv? So Amri, so the Chacham said like this. The Torah says afterwards, Bal haber yishalim, the owner of the pit shall pay, which chazer klal, which means that I bring back the klal. So now I have a klal upratu klal. I have the din of general prat and klal. And what's the din by klal upratu klal? Iatadan elakena prat. So you only deduce the psukim that are referring only to the prat. So ma prat mifedish, just like the explicit details referring to animals, balei chayim, afko balei chayim, so too all items, including in the klal, must be all animals, which means every type of balei chayim. 1 second, ma prat mifedish, if just as the explicit detail, the shir and the chamor, is items referring to number one, davar shenivlose mitama b'maga b'masen. Number one is just like the chamor and the shade. If a person is referring to carcasses, it makes a person tummy if he touched the shir and the chamor, if it's a carcass, by either contact or by carrying. So maybe it's all animals, balei chayim, whose carcass renders a person tummy impure through contact or carrying. That should be included in the halachas of damage by a bird. Aval eifis late. But by birds, we know if you carry or touch birds, even if it's dead, person doesn't become tamei by contacting or carrying it. So you're right, it is a klal upratu klal, and you're saying that the klal upratu klal, the prat is keina, the klal is keina prat. Yatadan el keina prat. So what's the prat is balei chayim. So with shir chamer, so to every balei chayim. It's a klal upratu klal. I have another issue. The klal. Let's look at the prat. The prat are dvarim that if it becomes an avela, it's metama b'maga b'masa. So oifis is not tama b'maga b'masa if it's an avela. So the Gemara says, Im kain, if so, nichtav rachmana chad prata. If you're correct, the Torah should only write either shade or chamar. So if the Gemara, hey nichtav, what should it write? Because of shade, if the Torah would only write shade, havamina, I would say, you know what type of shade? The Torah is chayiv you, that the beir is chayiv. Only if it could be brought on the mizbeach. But maybe when it's not something which is not brought on the mizbeach, for example, al pi halach, you can't bring a chamer. So I would say that the bal haber would not be chayiv. So that's what the Torah has to tell me shir and a chamer. Now, because of rachman chamer, if the Torah only read chamer, have a kodesh mibcheda in. I would say that when the Torah tells me you're chayiv bebeir, is dafka when a peter rechem, for example, a chamer, which could be a peter chamer. Which could be a firstborn child, which has the din of petach chamer. Aber she'ein kodesh b'pchedei, something which is not the firstborn is sanctified, maybe it doesn't render them chayiv. Therefore, the Torah has to state shur and a chamer. So what are you saying? You're saying that what was the Gemara's question? That l'cheira ma prat mefurish is davar shenavela b'magav b'maseh. So too any prat, so too the pratim which are nichlal in the Balei Chaim have to be something which is nevela matam b'magav b'maseh. But if it's not, so the Gemara says, if that's true, say one prat. I still have the klal prat to klal. Why do you have to bring two pratim? It must be for this extra thing to be marba ifis. So the Gemara says to be marba ifis, I still need it because I have another issue. If I would say only shade, I would say shade can be brought on the mizbeach. A chamor can't be brought on the mizbeach. So, and I would say by chamor I have the mila of petach chamor. So I go back and forth. So
the thing is, in the general sense, what does it have to do with damage? Person lost money.
But we want to understand when the Taita says that the shade falls into the bear and the burr causes damage. So we're saying, does that refer to dafka? The Taita says shei v'chamer. Doesn't mean shei v'chamer dafka or al balei chayim.
The concept of including, but as far as the Nesa goes, what's having to leave it out?
Okay, so now he says, Elam Makra, the pasuk says, V'ames. So now we have a new limud. The pasuk says, the previous method of learning liability for a pit we're rejecting, and instead we will learn azay. V'ames yaloi, and the carcass shall be for him, which means kol var misa. Anything that's subject to death, that the bear causes death, he's chayiv. So it doesn't matter what it is. It caused death to the animal, v'ames yaloi, he is chayiv. So the Gemara says like this. Whether according to the Chachamim who exclude Kalim from the liability on another pasuk, and and we know Rabbi Yehuda holds that we're married Kalim. Kalim b'nei Misa Ninu. Are Kalim subject to death? Kalim cannot be subject to death. So why then is a separate pasuk necessary to derive about Kalim? They're not b'nei Misa Ninu. So the Gemara says, no. Amri shvidasan, when Kalim shatter, zoe misasan, this is their death. And according to Rav, who says, we have this yesterday. According to Rav, who says, according to Rav, who says that when the Teda says ber, it deems a person chayiv. It's only for damage caused by the actual hevel, by the lethal fumes, but not by the actual direct impact of the fall. So bein the Rabbanan, bein the Rabbi Yehuda, both according to Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda, Kalim b'nei Hevle Ninu are Kalim subject to lethal fumes, that such a pasuk is necessary to exclude them. So Amri, the Chacham say, Bechadati, we're talking about new vessels, and the Mepaki b'Hevle, who's cracked from the fumes. Gemara asks, Hi v'amesi aloi miboy le'lichad Rabba. The pasuk of amesi aloi, you need it for another pshat of Rabba. Rabba says, Damar Rabba, Sher psulei megdashin shnafel ber. What happens when you have disqualified, consecrated ox that fell into a pit? So the halacha is the owner of the pit is exempt. Remember as it says, v'hames yaloi, and the carcass shall be for him. B'misha hames shaloi. It's referring to a person to whom the carcass belongs. Excluding this person to whom the carcass does not belong to. So once the halacha has already been learned from this pasuk, it cannot be used to teach us another pshat of the brisa. So we have an issue. The pasuk says, Kesef Yasher L'Balav, the money shall be returned to its owner. The Rabbi is called the Islay Ba'alim, including any type that has the owner with the scope of liability. The Gemara says, if so, Kalim and people should be included as well, which presents a shaila, which we said it doesn't. So Makra, the pasuk says, Shade. So what's going to exclude? So the Gemara says you're right. Donkey stated with regards to pit according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. They said and it's not going to be a kasha. There's no explanation why they are stated. There's no. I don't know if you're not chayiv. The Gemara doesn't. I don't know. Maybe we go to chumra. Ich weiß nicht. Divrei hakel kasha. Okay. Okay. So now this was at Rabbi Aaron. We started alluding to this yesterday. Of what does it mean? Nafal teche, or maybe 2 days ago. Nafal teche shei cheresh shei tevekatan. Who is the? Is it the person who owns the shade, a shade cheresh or is it the actual shade? So now the Gemara gets into that. Nafal teichei shade cheresh v'katan chayiv. Now the Mishnah said that if a cheresh shade v'katan ox fell into the pit, the owner is chayiv. So the Gemara, my shade cheresh v'katan. What does the Mishnah mean by a shei cheresh v'katan. Either shei shecheresh, shei shekatan. If you're going to say that the shei belonged to a cheresh, or the shei belonged to a sheita, or shei shekatan, hai shei shall be pikeach pater. So what are you saying? They are chayiv, which would imply that a shei, if it pikeach, will be pater, which is not true. Rabbi Yochanan says this: shei shu cheresh. It means a shei which itself, the shei is a cheresh, or shei shu is a sheita, or shei shu which is a katan, which like the Meiri explains, it doesn't have the ability to gore. So the Gemara says, ha shei shu pikeach pater, which would imply that if the ox is of standard intelligence, fell into a bird, the owner of the pit would be pater. So Rabbi says no. Bava Kamah. It's a Bava shei shu pikeach. Needless to say, a shei which is a pikeach, the chay which would be chayiv. You were going to say, you will say it's not the pit, it's the cherishkeit of him that caused it, or it's katnuse garmalay, it's the fact that he's a child of lipater. So perhaps maybe the bala bear should be pater. Therefore, it teaches us that he's chayiv in these cases as well. So now Rabbi says to Ravina, we learned in Abraisa, bardas pater. We learned that if a bardas fell in his pater, my lav sher bardas. The chair is now referring to a mentally competent person. So the answer is Adam is referring to Adam. Elamata Adam ben das who the pater la ben das with the chayiv. You tell me that if it's a la ben das would be chayiv. Shev le Adam ksiv. It says dafke shev le Adam. Elamai ben das. Rather, what does it mean ben das? Mean ben das is referring to species that is mentally competent, and thereby includes all human in the exemption from liability. Amalei batanya nafla teiche sher ben das is pater. So Rabbi says sher v'hu chedesh. It's referring to a sher which is a chedesh. Sher v'hu sheta. Sher v'hu katan dafka. Aval sher v'hu bikeach pater. My time and why the boy lay ayune mezel, because the ox should have looked carefully while it was walking. And it did not so therefore it's the responsibility for its own, it's responsible for its own injury. So the Gemara says, time the boy mezel. What's you're saying that he should have looked? My time, but the boy mezel. And if the ox of a standard intelligence or is walking during the day, so then the bal haber will be pater, since normal behavior for this ox is that they watch where they're going and avoid pits. Okay, Zog the Mishnah. Echad shei ve'echad shel behema. Okay, so now like this. The halacha is the same whether concerning an ox, whether concerning any other animal, with regards to echad shei ve'echad shel behema, sai and l'nefila sabo. First of all, for falling into a pit. And the Gemara will explain. Ula hafrashas har Sinai, and with regards to keeping the distance from Har Sinai at the time when the Yidden received the Teda, when it was forbidden for any animal to go into the mountain. So this referred to a shed and a behema. Tashlim kefil, and in regards to kefil, which we're just learning now in the Rambam, that it refers to both a shed and a behema. And Shabbos Abeda refers to a shed and a behema. Lefrika, there's a special mitzvah of unloading its burden that refers to both. Lechasima, with regards to the Isser, muzzling while threshing, refers to Sayar Shen and Behema. And V'Lashavas, and also in regards to Shabbos. Referring to a Chay and Eif as well, the same halachas. Imkein Lamanar Sher v'Chamer. Why does the Torah give the example of Sher and Chamer? Elo Shediber HaKosu behavior. The Torah is speaking of a common scenario. Okay, so now the Gemara says like this. The Gemara is going to explain all the halachas enumerated in the Mishnah. Then with regards to falling into the pit, Kesev Yashiv Labala, the Torah says he shall recompensate money to its owners, which means called the Islay Labailim, which means that any animal that owner is included, as we mentioned. Lafrashas Har Sinai, with regards to the requirement that animals keep a distance from in Har Sinai, it said the Torah says im behema im ish la yichya. It says whether it will be an animal or a person, it shall not live. V'chai v'chal behema havya, and a chai is part of a behema. Im is l'rabis esa'ifis, to include the birds. Now, the Tashlum came with regard to double payment of the thief, like we said, I'll call Var Pesha. The Torah says, for any matter that trespasses, Klal called over Pshia, which includes any matter of negligence. With regards to lost objects, Yolav Chamer Mishabas. You learn from Chamer Mishabas. Lechasima, with regard to the Isser muzzling an animal, is mentioned, you shall not muzzle your ox while it's threshing. Yolav Sher Mishabas, we learn Xer Shava from Sher and Shabbos. That just like it's an Isser against having one's animals perform any labor on Shabbos, it's referring to also, as the pasuk is referring to clearly an animal. The Kilayim, with regards to the Isser of Kilayim, it's referring to the Isser against using any Kilayim. So the Kilayim. So the Gemara says like this: it's referring to using diverse kinds of plowing. Now, Kilayim the Charisha, L'kilayim, I kilayim decharisha, Yolav Sher Meshabes, Luna Sher Meshabes. I kilayim darbo, if it's referring to the kilayim of crossbreeding, Yolav behemtach Meshabes, I have exer shava behemtach Meshabes. And that, and which speaks about the Isra against having one's animal perform malacha on Shabbos, and that pasuk is clearly referring to an animal. Now, where do we know concerning Shabbos itself that the word ox and donkey is referring to all types of animals? The Tanya, in regards to the first Aseres Dibros T'Torah, it says, it says your maidservants, your manservants, your maidservants, and your cattle. In regards to the second version of the Ten Commandments, it says, your ox, your donkey, nor any of your cattle. Sheva chamar are part of behemoths. So why does the Torah say Sheva chamar? To tell you, Sheva chamar homer kan. So just like over here, it's speaking about the Chaya and Eif, has the same halacha. The Gemara asks, why don't I say that the behemoth is in the first dibros Hashanis as a klal? As a prat, which would mean Sheva chamar in midachinilay. So the Gemara is going to go back. The same thing again. Amri v'chol v'hem dibros Hashanis chazor klal. Klal prat klal. Yat then elken prat ma prat mufurish balechayim. Avkol is balechayim. Fred Gemara ve'ema ma prat mufurish dover shnivlosa mitama b'magav masa avkol dover shnivlosa mitama b'magav masa. Alvo ifrislay the same thing. Amri im kenichtu rachmana chad prata. The Gemara says, "Hey, nichtu rachmana ikas rachmana sharva mina korev the gav mezbech in sheinin korev the gav mezbech lay." It's mamish the same thing that we said before. So I won't touch up. Kasav rachmana chamar because rachmana chamar have mina kodesh mimchere in shein kodesh mimchere lay kasav rachmana shirt. Elo v'chol behemtecha is a ribuya. Frag the mother v'chol heicha the kosher rachmana keil ribuya. V'cher I see v'hagabi meiser I see by meiser the ksiv keil and because there shouldn't like klalu prat rather than using klalu prat. So it's not a ribuya. So the Gemara says the Tanya v'nal sata kesef v'chol shatav and avshacha and you shall give the money for anything of your soul desires, which is a klal. Ba'boker b'tzenim b'yayin v'shech is a prat. V'chol shet sholch and avshacha chazor klal. Klalu prat to klal letter than elikin and prat. Ma prat mufurish mipri. It has to be something which is grown from the ground. It's evident here that the method of klalu prat is used in connection within the term kreil, as opposed to interpreting as a ribuye. So Amr says bichol is a klala, kreil is ribuye, bichol is a klala, kreil is ribuye. By saying a kol nami klalu, kol is also a klal. Miu high kol dahacher over here, kreil is dahacher ribuye. Me dahavale lemichtav v'hemtecha. It's a Kurdish said must be over here that kreil is a ribuya. Hash the Amr, the Gemara says, now that he says kreil is ribuya, what do I need to have these psukim? So Amri Sher, the term ox can be derived like Muri Sher with regards to the Isra against muzzling. Sher the Chamisa as the word ox, from the word ox and ox. Chamer, the term chamer is like Muri, chamer leprik. I learn out from chamer the chamer from unloading. Then it should be also even for a person to plow together with an ox or another animal. We see a person is permitted to plow and pull with any of them, indicating that the Isra relates only to animals. He says, they knew the matter of this they knew the answer to this matter. Mani, who's that? The pasuk says, it says that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well with you. Lahanocha hikashtiv. I've equated people with animals concerning resting on Shabbos, but not with regards to another.